Hello and welcome to Moments of Truth on Labour Social. I'm Graham Hughes. They say that cynics know the price of everything and the value of nothing. I would go one further when talking about Brexiters and Tories. I'd say they know the price of nothing and the value of nothing. These are the people who genuinely believe that the best way to improve Britain's international trade, its stagnant economy and its reach around the world, was by putting trade sanctions up between ourselves and our nearest allies. Well, the chickens came home to roost this week at the G20 as the EU and US backed a trade corridor linking Europe, the Middle East and India in what would be a rival to China's multi-billion-dollar Belt and Road Initiative. This is a massive deal. The project, called the Partnership for Global Infrastructure Investment, could speed up trade between India and Europe by 40% and help normalise relations between Israel and the Gulf states. And whose signature was missing? That of Rishi Sunak's on behalf of the United Kingdom. Not because we weren't interested, but because we were well and truly shut out of this potentially incredibly lucrative agreement. Why? Because all these countries around the world saw how we treated our friends, our closest trading partners, how our political leaders mocked them, called them tyrants, lied about their intentions, UKIPers turning their backs on the European anthem, Boris Johnson likening the EU's aims to that of the Nazis, comparing the French president to a Nazi prison camp guard, politicians and pundits calling the EU the EU-SSR. How do you think that went down in EU states like Latvia, Lithuania and Estonia, who lived under the tyrannical cosh of the actual USSR for 50 years? But the US, India, the Gulf states and others didn't just see the idiots in charge of our country behaving like egotistical, sociopathic, entitled little bellends. They also saw millions of Brexit voters lose their tiny minds, people who were willing to sacrifice their firstborn to get Brexit done. People who wanted, above all things, for Britain's role on the world stage to be diminished, for us to retreat back into ourselves, to stand on our own 2 feet, even though we currently don't produce enough energy, either fossil fuels or renewables, for our needs, and we certainly don't produce enough food to feed ourselves, and haven't since Queen Victoria was on the goddamn throne. These people were sold a childish fantasy, which they willingly bought, that the best way to address our changing position on the world stage was to throw a hissy fit and tell all of our closest trading partners to fuck off. All these other countries around the world that we've been promised these amazing free trade deals with, they saw what we did to our closest allies, closest politically, economically and militarily. Don't forget, 22 of the 27 EU states are in NATO. If we ever get invaded, they're sworn an oath to come to our aid, to sacrifice their own servicemen and women, if necessary, to help us out. Countries around the world obviously didn't like what they saw. They saw a cowardly country running away, fleeing its moral, political and economic obligations. They saw a once proud nation shunning reality for an idiotic fantasy, scared of the size of the world and our place in it. An entire country behaving for all intents and purposes like a sulky teenager, whining that they never asked to be born. What an amazing gift we have passed down to everyone born in this century, all 15 million of them who did not get to vote in the Brexit fraudurendum. This deal, the Partnership for Global Infrastructure Investment, and the fact that we've been excluded from it, just like we've been shut out of the coming together earlier in the year of the massive US Inflation Reduction Act and the EU Green Deal Industrial Plan, something that could have been worth billions, if not trillions, over the coming decades, is testament to the lack of interest the rest of the world has in this ridiculous and newly impoverished nation of ours. A so-called advanced economy whose GDP has not grown a dirty penny overall in more than 16 years. This is why I campaigned against Brexit and why I will continue to campaign to rejoin the EU sooner rather than later. And to all the people out there who say in sneering, mocking voices, "You lost, get over it," I'm not the one you need to convince. In the grand scheme of things, I don't matter. You need to tell the people who do matter to get over it. And unfortunately for you, they're the representatives of every other goddamn country in the goddamn world. Good luck with that.